Welcome back to the Full Force Combat podcast. Lot to get our teeth into this week, but how are we doing first, chaps?
Doing good. Good weekend of fights. I'd say actually, to be fair, better than expected. So happy with that. Always, you sort of know what you're going to get with the Apex ones, but we actually got surprised. And the Oktagon card, delivered as usual. Some big knockouts this week as well.
Yeah, big time.
Absolutely. I think we should start with probably the biggest knockout for me. It was a bit of a different type of knockout to what we're used to seeing on a regular basis. It was like a big body slam, WWE style, straight onto his back from Elijah Smith onto the Japanese guy Kazama. Was it? Is that right? Was that Kazama? Yeah. And the fight was good. The fight was a good matchup as well. And then out of nowhere, Smith just found this powerhouse strength, lifted him up, and boom. And he was out straight away. And it was scary moments at first. But the reports come back from the hospital and so on and so forth. But we've not seen many like that, have we, Nathan? Especially of late.
No, I can't think of many bar that and then the Jordan Levitt one. I think he got someone with it. I can't remember who. But that slam with Levitt got, it landed more on his head, whereas it didn't really feel like he landed like completely on his head in this one. Maybe I'm misremembering, but it was, scary moment, to be honest. It's one of those KOs that they almost feel more vicious than a punch or a kick, because it is literally you're just full force going down. And that is, that was scary. And he was completely out as well. But a great win for Elijah Smith, and a unique knockout, which will help him stand out amongst a very busy crowd at bantamweight, I think, or featherweight.
So I was just going to say, it was that. Sorry, mate. Go on.
Sorry, I was just going to say, have you tried to recreate that in the gym this week?
What, the Batista bombs? Oh no, mate. Oh no, mate. You can't be doing stuff like that. They can't be doing stuff like that in the gym. But it couldn't have gone better for Elijah Smith. Like that entire fight. Tashimi Kazama, I don't think he landed a single significant strike. He spent the entire round on his back on the floor, and then threw up a triangle, and then smashed down to the floor. I don't think the fight could have gone better for Elijah Smith. Come out of it relatively unscathed. Took a few, took like little light daft ones. Nothing too serious. Like, so I wonder if he's gonna use this momentum now with this highlight reel KO and try build some momentum off it and try make a fast turnaround. Try build a bit of star power from it. Well, I know it's only one KO, but still, like you said, how many Batista bombs do you see in the UFC? You see hardly ever. So I'd use that and run with it.
Absolutely, it was a very unique, very powerful knockout victory, which I was just majorly impressed with it. So we'll have a new thing now. We'll have the Hez knockout moment of the week, and just for the style of the knockout, because we don't get many of them, it goes to Elijah Smith this week.
Yeah.
But another serious knockout, which I thought you could see it coming. He kept making a couple of mistakes. There was one or two fouls. He got warned twice. But Christian Leroy Duncan, wow, he produced something remarkable, didn't he, lads? And we touched on this last week. If you could get a finish like that, that's the one now. Like, he's had 7 fights in the UFC. He's on a good run. He's had that big finish over a guy that could have been a contender a few years ago, but now it's definitely real contenders now, isn't it? Not just guys on the way out, with no disrespect to Erik Anders, Alex.
Yeah. Like, to be fair, I think he had a good showing of himself. CLD in this fight, he kept him at his range, used the low kicks, nice. Erik Anders managed to get him down, but it was for a second or two. Got to his knees, stood straight back up, pretty much. But yeah, he just kind of needs to. Same with Elijah Smith. He just needs to build off this momentum now. He's got a big highlight finish. That spinning elbow was nasty. Erik Anders is wobbling about, and then he just comes over, and then he just kind of creases. He just kind of creases and dies, So he needs to build off this now. He needs to get back active. He needs to maybe get back in there before the end of the year, and then he's got some great momentum. And then he's got a real good shot of getting a top 15 opponent by the by the start of next year then, and then there's his run. He's on his run then. But yeah, it's good to see, because a UK guy, he's had a few losses, but just hope he can bounce back from it. Just hope he can bounce back from it, because he's an entertaining guy to watch.
Yeah, he's a good fighter, is Leroy Duncan. He proved it there as well. And I think it was the thing we spoke about. We were sort of waiting for him to really, stand out and have that sort of picturesque knockout that we know him for, because he's done that in Cage Warriors a whole lot in terms of getting those sort of stunning knockouts. Obviously, he's got some ground and pound ones. He's grinded out some decisions, but we were yet to really see him get that Christian Leroy Duncan knockout that we were expecting when he first made the jump. And so now he sits at a very, very respectable 5-2. It's weird looking at the middleweight rankings, because that while I don't think the division's that good, I think there's a lot of sort of names where it's quite awkward to match someone like Leroy Duncan with them. Like, you've got Kopolov, who sits at the bottom of it, and he just fought Paulo Costa. So that doesn't really make sense. So I was, as often we do try and play matchmaker here, I was having a little look down the middleweights, and a name that stands out for me, and maybe it's a bit too much, but I mean, what a test. I don't know if the UFC are coming back to Abu Dhabi anytime soon, or where they like to have him.
Yeah.
Put him up against Shara. Let's see what Shara needs opponents. It's pretty clear that Shara Magomedov is probably not going to be a world title contender, at least in this year or next year. But he's a guy that they like to put on to have entertaining fights. Let's be honest, he won that fight, and was clearly won against Barriault. But I think Leroy Duncan's better than Barriault, so I think that's a good test for him. I think that is, if he can get a win over him, that will do a lot more for him than it did for like Michael Page, because everyone knows Michael Page is good, whereas Leroy Duncan is sort of a bit of an unknown to people. So I think that's the fight. There's some other names, obviously you got like Ferreira and maybe even Nickel or something, but that feels like the right fight to me, at least off just having a quick little browse.
Absolutely, that's not a bad shout, that, and based off his performance against Anders the other night, where I don't know about you two lads, but I thought Leroy Duncan was incredibly fast out of the blocks as well. And if he can continue that, and the combinations that he put together, you mentioned the low kicks, Alex, and it worked a treat for him. And he, like with the fouls, and you could see that it was happening, but that's just part of the game. When you're that ferocious and you want to throw it, because then you're not just keeping your opponent guessing, you're keeping him back. You're landing at will. I thought he did really, really well. What a brutal finish as well. He absolutely laid him out, didn't he? They finished the elbow, and then the brutal finish downside of the cage after it. But then the rest of the fights were pretty much fillers from there on in on the main card. But the main event, Nathan, talk us through that main event, dude.
Yeah, Fluffy Hernandez, Anthony Hernandez. He's a real breakout guy in this middleweight division. Again, it's not stacked with quality. There's a lot of names and people that you'd have heard of, because often they get put in sort of main events, as you saw here. But Delidze, he's in the rankings. I don't think he's that great. But Hernandez really shone in that fight. He was brilliant. I mean, Delidze did catch him in the first round, but that seems to be a sort of Hernandez special. He tends to get caught at least once in a fight. But after that, it was just straight domination from start to finish. And he broke Delidze. And that's the thing with Hernandez, is watching him. He tends to break his opponents. It's not just a case of getting a snap or a flash knockout or submission. Often in his case, he tends to really stick it on his opponents. I mean, he didn't get that submission against Vieira just by, sort of chance and luck. It was, he'd worked for it and he earned it. And he's a guy that actually kind of stands out in this division. When you sort of look at the names, obviously you've got someone like Reina Derrida, obviously Brau's got a big fight coming up, but I don't see, I mean, I suppose it's going to be tough to actually matchmake this fight with the fighter in question. I don't see how he couldn't beat a Sean Strickland. I just don't. I look at that and I know I don't like Sean Strickland, but I think Hernandez is better than him. So I think, and then with Strickland, you don't have to worry about getting dropped or anything like that. It's a case of, he can really just sort of stick it on him from the jump. So I think that's a good fight for him. Maybe a Robert Whittaker fight. I mean, in the test of sort of, go and prove yourself. Are you really that good? Even though Whittaker's sort of on his way down, it was still a close fight against Derrida. But he is one to watch. And even if he's not going to be the guy that ascends to the top of the middleweight rankings, he's a fun guy to watch fight. And he's actually got some real technical skills as well, which stands out in a middleweight division that often hasn't been gifted with those, especially in recent years at least.
Yeah, I think that. Oh, sorry. Go on, mate.
Is he ranked?
Yeah, he's. I don't know if I don't think they've updated it since, but he was 10th before the Delize fight. He'd have gone above Delize after that. He was ninth.
So I like that Robert Whittaker shout, mate.
That is a really, really good shout. Either that or the winner of Cannonier and Page.
Yeah, definitely.
That's this weekend. That's this weekend. We'll speak about that later on. But yeah, there's options there, isn't there? And he's 9-2 now in the UFC. They've got to give him a big fight now, haven't they?
Yeah, he's really good. He's really fun. He's actually fun to watch as well. He's, so I think he's really someone that's come on, and you've seen his development through his time here, and he gets finishes. I just had a quick little scroll there. 1, 2, 3, 6 in a row, 6 finishes in a row. That's, that does have hold some currency in the UFC. And so, really, really impressive stuff. And he deserves a lot of credit that will come his way, especially overcoming a sort of 1 and 2 start before, then just locking in. He's won 8 in a row now. So really impressive.
And another $50,000 performance bonus, which, is absolutely great. But elsewhere across this continent, Europe, there was another reasonably big event. It was a bit of a smaller setting, but still an open-air stadium event, Oktagon 74 in Snevica. I'm sure that's how you pronounce it. Don't know if I fumbled that. But major interest from us on the card as we previewed it last week. Niamh Kinehan got her MMA career off to a flying start. She looked fantastic. Unanimous decision win to get the card off to a flyer. And then we had Mick Stanton in the quarterfinals of the Game Changer. And Kerry Mengizek just dominated, didn't he? He was prepared for Mick Stanton to shoot for that takedown. And his hips, you've seen the footage yourself, boys. Mengizek was quite impressive, to say the least, wasn't he, Nathan?
I think so. I think this was one we were saying, and it was people were wanting Stanton or backing Stanton in this, and we were pretty high on Mick Stanton going into it. But I think Mengizek sort of delivered you forgot about me, you forgot how good I am to get here and to be that at that level. And he proved it. He steamrolled a genuinely good fighter in Mick Stanton, and a veteran that very not often gets dealt with like that. It was, that's rare to see against someone like that. And it just goes to show why he's the middleweight champion. And while it, still baffles why the belt ain't on the line of any of these fights, and it does put him in an interesting position. He just went out and showed, that's why I'm middleweight champion. That's why I'm the number one, he's a number one seed, so to speak, in this Game Changer, and probably the favourite to win. And I think that proved it in a night where, to be fair, a lot of those middleweight fights had finishes, and there's a couple. There's one name in particular I think poses a real threat to him still, but Mengizek proved that don't forget about how good he is. Don't doubt him. Don't doubt him too much.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, I was just going to say, I kind of feel like with the tournament, I think most of the main questions have been answered now. I don't know about you guys, but I mean, like, I look at the brackets now. I mean, obviously with Peñas being out of the picture, because I don't know, they're not going to throw him back in now, are they? Like, what, this is twice now? He had Fingio step, Hojak step in anyway, to fight his opponent, and he ended up beating him fair play. So Peñas probably would have battered him, so Peñas would have absolutely battered him. So I don't know if this. I've never saw anything of this Hojak, but I don't see him beating a Karim Mengizek. I don't see him beating a Dominic Humberger. And Jotko, he had a great finish, but I just don't see him getting past, again, Dominic Humberger or Karim Mengizek. So depending on how they do the next bracket, it's going to be them two in the final, I think. So I think it's just going to be then you start asking who's going to win the whole thing rather than who's going to win the next round. So don't know what your guys' thoughts on that are.
Yeah, with Hoyde Cavilland, he has been the reserve fighter twice, and now was elevated into the tournament when Peñas dropped out. He fought the guy that Mick Stanton fought last year in Birmingham, who Stano stopped. And Cavilland, he dominated him. He pieced him up, but he could have just finished him. and he's not got that killer instinct compared to your Yotkos and your Engizets. Christian Yotko, or is it Christian Yotko? Yotko anyway. Christoph Yotko, that's the one. My apologies. He has fought the likes of Will Fleury, and that is 30 fights into his MMA career. So he's a dangerous fighter. There's also Humberger now, who come back from near death against Mark Hume. And you've got Engizek. So it's a strong four, but unfortunately, Cavillan's the weaker of that four, in my opinion. I think looking at it, I know Humberger's win was good, but I just think it's going to be a Yotko Engizek final, I think.
When do we find out the matchups first?
I'm not sure. I don't even know if the semi-finals have been set or I've not seen it. But Engizek's definitely the favourite now. My eyes, 1,000,000% he is now, especially when Peñas has been removed from the tournament. Because
I do think Humberger is an interesting one though.
Yeah, it is.
I do, because I mean, he lost. He actually only lost last year, but this year's been a really good year for him. And there's something about momentum in these fights, getting those finishing, in a tournament as well. He's probably going in with that belief that he can really just take out anyone. And the thing with Yotko and Engizek less so, but Yotko possibly. This isn't a guy that's just got here yesterday. This guy's been around, and that can be a benefit and also a negative in that thing. You're fighting a guy who's fought 30 odd times. To be fair, just actually looking through, this goes completely against, not often finished, but he did manage to get finished by Yotko. Managed to get finished by Brad Tavares. So that tells you Humberger's got a chance of finishing Yotko if they are to fight, because Brad Tavares finishes no one ever, and he managed to get Yotko out of there. So there is a chance. I actually thought Yotko was the threat to Engizek, and I still think that, depending on the matchups and how they go about, what ends up happening. Yotko is a vet, and he is good enough to have that fight. I mean, it would be interesting to see if Yotko was to come out winning that, what they would do. Again, it's all that, what happens if Engizek loses, because does he get the belt? And then if Yotko somehow gets the belt, somehow beats Muradov, I think Muradov will remain my favourite, in the sense of, if whoever is to fight, I think Muradov would be the favourite regardless, because I think he's just better than the guys in here. I think Engizek would be a really interesting fight. But then obviously Yotko and Fleury have fought, and there's that. So it's interesting. Again, as we said last week, lots of permutations on this, on that tournament. It's going to be really interesting how it plays out, and I'm looking forward to seeing the matchups, because even though we know the clear favourites, I think Humberger especially is someone that is, under the radar a little bit, maybe less so now after that knockout, but he's on the periphery of maybe causing a bit of an upset.
Yeah. So it's Engizek, Humberger, and Yotko Cavillan.
Oh, okay, yeah, that does probably take away my Humberger thing immediately. Yeah. I think Engizek probably beats some Humberger, and I would back Yotko to win that. But again, Humberger, you never know. He showed he's got the power to end a fight, and no matter, Sarah beat GSP once, so it's not impossible. But it does feel unlikely, and I think we're heading towards Engizek Yotko final, which as a fight is probably the deserving fight. It doesn't scream off the card, in terms of a style matchup, I don't think, but you never know.
Absolutely. And in the main event, Cecile Belander, she got injured to her knee. She popped a knee early on in the fight, and Lucia Sabo, so that's how you pronounce it, just pummeled her. She did tell the referee, Belander, she's on the floor like, my knee's popped, and then the referee was just like, yeah, carry on. It was a bit unnecessary, but it is what it is. And Lucia Sabova, and that's pronounced it, is 10-0. And when you're 10-0 in any promotion, especially with the women's bantamweight, flyweight all around there, the UFC will likely come knocking soon. In other news on the evening, quite convenient, I was speaking to the double champ Will Fleury a couple of days before the event, and we were speaking about the prospect of fighting Martin Buday, who's recently controversially been released from the UFC after going 7-1. Former Oktagon heavyweight champion. Oktagon got the deal over the line pretty quickly. He was there. They faced off in the cage. There's no date officially set yet, but they are looking at Bratislava. But that fight is, at this current time, the biggest in European MMA. And if they can produce something special, then it can probably go down as one of the greatest as well. I mean, from what Will's done over the last 2 years in Oktagon, and with the reputation that Buday has, and being a former Oktagon heavyweight champion, it's got all the ingredients to be great, hasn't it?
Yeah, big time. I didn't realise how much bigger Martin Buday was than him, when, bear in mind, Will Fleury's a big dude, and then we stood next to Martin Buday, and you're like, geez, but I still think Will's going to chin him. I can just see it now. I can just see Will chinning him. I'm calling it. I said it the other week, and I'm going to keep saying it until the build up to the fight, and then when he chins him, I'll say I told you so. So I'm calling it now. Will Fleury chins him first round.
I hope so.
That is out there.
I like that, but Buday is good.
Big ass. He's a big fella, but I believe in Will fucking Fleury. He can do it.
Buday is he's obviously not like a world beater, but you don't go 7-1 in if he'd have gone 4-1 in the heavyweight division, I'd said fair. But 7-1, I'm not sure. That's a really tough fight for Will, and it mainly just and to be honest, skill for skill, it's Will is probably the better fighter, but it is literally just that size. It's just that Will will be he's a light heavyweight. He's talking about going down to middleweight now. He's got to fight all 265 pounds of that heavyweight division. That's a tough ask. If Will can take it to those later stages, obviously just early on thinking, he's got a good chance. And to be fair, I don't know. I'd have to look up. I don't know if Buday's necessarily a finisher, which would probably actually play in Fleury's corner in that sense. But I think it is a huge fight, and obviously I do wonder that if Fleury obviously he's got this fight at heavyweight, and then he wants to drop all the way down to middleweight. That's bloody hell. that's hard work. So fair play to that, and so he's got to keep the championship to be the triple champion. So we're obviously going to be rooting for him 100%. But it's going to be the toughest fight he's had in Oktagon, I think, at least at heavyweight.
Absolutely. I think when you look at the prospect of the Muradov fight, that is huge, because that's Will's, obviously it's his Everest, and it's the triple champ status. That's the one. The prospects of that fight is huge, and with who Muradov is and what his reputation comes with. However, the sheer size of Martin Buday is scary. Like you said, Niamh, he was 260 pounds, but Fleury is probably better skill for skill. Is one of the best grappling fighters to ever come out of Ireland. His achievements and his accolades are ridiculous, what Will Fleury has got. He can also box very well. If he comes in on the night a good 20 pounds under what Martin Buday weighs, which is highly likely, then Will might use his head and be smart, knows he can do the championship distance because he's done it twice back to back. So he's done 50 minutes. He knows he can do that. He's got the stamina for it, especially and at heavyweight. He could just stay on the back foot, and he could wear Martin Buday down without having to engage that much. Do you know what I mean? And then the fight could go from there. It's a tricky way to call it, but the main factor is Will has to stay away from that monstrous right hand that Martin Buday has. He's not a massive finisher, but he's still got 68.
And to be honest,
knockouts, 38% of his wins knockouts.
Can I just say, I'm just looking at the guys he's beaten in the UFC. I take back that thing I said about, he's gone 7-1. He's beat the worst of his bloody division. I'm just looking now. He beat Chris Barnett. He beat Luke. He split decision with Lucas Brzezinski, who's gone on to lose 5 other fights. Jake Collier, Josh Parisian. He lost to Gassiev, which is what it is. That's not the worst fight. He went to a split with Arlovsky, in 2024. He fought Sati Baldiev, who was a fair undefeated contender, and then it's the Buchecha fight, and Buchecha looked like he'd been dragged out of something to fight that fight. So I'm the more I look at it now, the more I'm feeling Fleury. I'm more with Alex. Maybe not as quick, but I think but it is the size. The size is the biggest thing here, because Fleury, I'll change it slightly. I think Fleury's a way better fighter than Buday, but
absolutely.
Size.
I think if you look at that 7-1 on paper is fantastic, but then when you delve into the context of it and go in a bit deeper, then Andrei Arlovski split decision.
The Brzeski one, I know that was a while ago, but
this is what I mean. Like I said, boys, Will could come in at least 20 pounds lighter. He could just stay on the fucking back foot and box the shit out of him. Will's a smart fighter. Will's a smart fighter. He's been around the game for a long time. There's not much of an age gap between these. Buday is 33 or something like that. Will's 36. There's an inch between them in size, surprisingly. Apparently, according to Tapology, Buday's 6'4", and apparently Will's 6'3". I think Will is about 6'3", but there's no way Martin Buday is 6'4". When they were still facing each other on Saturday, it was more of an inch in height, wasn't it? You've all seen the images, you know. I think Buday was about 6'7", but like we said, it's just the power of the right hand. But I think Will can keep away from it. I think he's a better fighter all round, and especially in the grappling. Just like I said, like I touched on, the accolades that he's won alone. If you go on Will Fleury's Instagram bio, he's very proud of his achievements and has them all listed there. Every single time he has won a grappling competition, it is marked down. He's very, very, very passionate about that. So there's a lot of different tools Will Fleury can use in this fight, isn't there, boys? It's definitely winnable, and we're all for it. Let's hope there's an announcement soon.